It appears like it's a very bad day to be Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, but a good day if you're somebody who likes pointing and laughing at Trudeau and the collapse of the Liberal Party of Canada. Because there's a new poll out from Abacus data showing that not only are the Conservatives still well ahead of the Liberals, but the Liberals have somehow slumped into a brand new low. But before I get into the particularly embarrassing data points, I just want to go through the top line numbers that Abacus has released. So their poll shows that nationally the Conservatives are at 43%, Liberals 23. That is a 20-point lead for the Conservatives. The NDP is at 18%, which really demonstrates how bad Jagmeet Singh is his job. The other left-wing party is currently collapsing, and he can't gain any new support. Insane. The Bloc Québécois is at 7%. The Green Party is at 4%, and even the PPC is managing to get 4% in this poll, even though in the vast majority of new polls coming out from all the different companies, they've gotten used to polling around 1 to 3%, rarely ever seeing a 4 or 5% result. That party's going nowhere. The biggest problem for the PPC is one, they're out of money these days. They used to be able to bring in more money than the Bloc could, because obviously the Bloc only collects money in Quebec for the most part, and the PPC can fundraise everywhere. I think right now they've only raised a little bit more than $300,000, where the Bloc's at $600,000. That used to be a reverse stat back in the day, but as the PPC has not been able to gain any traction, they cannot be surprised when their donors start to walk away from them, not seeing any way for a purple wave to hit a riding and for them to gain a seat. But now I want to get into the very funny numbers. It's the numbers coming out of Quebec. Because for a long time, even when the Conservatives were leading by 20 points in a lot of the other polls, especially even just from other polls from Abacus data, the Liberals still had a couple of bright spots. There was a couple of provinces where at least they were going to be able to hold on to their red wall. Yes, they are going to get clobbered in the national election, but at least they'll have a big chunk of seats left over so that after the next election, the rebuilding won't be too dramatic. And they basically just have to focus on the GTA, the Maritimes, and in like kind of Vancouver, Metro Vancouver area. No, no, no. They might have to do some rebuilding in Quebec itself. But before I get to those numbers, I just quickly want to plug the fact that I currently am in Abbotsford, and if you live in British Columbia, I'm helping the BC Conservative Party, the provincial party, take out David Eby's radical BC NDP. So if you live in BC, there's a donation link to the Abbotsford South EDA. Donate $100. It only costs you $25 after your 75% tax credit. The only advantage the BC NDP has at this point is the money advantage. And if you don't live in BC, I have a legal fundraiser for this channel in the description below. We're being sued by a Chinese billionaire for defamation that he cannot even prove happened after more than 2.5 years of this case going on. But I digress, and now we are going to get back into the numbers here. So this is Abacus' data's numbers for Quebec, comparing it to the rest of Canada. Obviously, Quebec still not a conservative province, but in a certain sense, it kind of is, because in plurality, like in terms of the plurality of votes, the Conservatives are actually leading in Quebec, 31%. It's not even like they're just edging out the Liberals. The Liberals are only at 24%. The second place party is the Bloc Québécois. That's insane. Like, really, the Liberals don't do well in Quebec. They do well in Montreal. They have lost the rest of the province entirely. And even this poll showed the Conservatives picking up one of their seats in downtown Montreal. And it wasn't Anthony Housefather's seat, which also has the possibility of flipping Conservative. It's a very hard province for the Conservatives to break into, because even when they gain support, it tends to be just shotgunned around the entire province. So while they are ahead of the Liberals and the Bloc and the Liberals are still slated to win far more seats, because the Bloc is a very, suburban rural party, and the Liberals are a very Montreal party, where the Conservatives are kind of just a party for generally everyone, but not specifically concentrated anywhere to win seats. But when you take Quebec out of the equation, you can really tell also that the Conservative Party, although it is doing well in Quebec these days relative to how they used to be able to do, they are now becoming just the Anglo Party. 47% of people in the rest of Canada, when you take out the Quebec, are planning on voting for the Conservatives. Only 22% voting Liberal, 20% voting NDP, 4 Green, 6 PPC. This is just nightmarishly bad numbers for the Liberals, because this is Justin Trudeau's claim to fame. He is the son of Pierre Elliott Trudeau. He is a Quebec politician himself. His riding is in Papineau. His riding's actually not that safe, too. I should actually jump over to that at some point. It's pathetic how his riding is not at all that safe, considering he's the prime minister. But he was supposed to be somebody who can deliver you just dozens and dozens of extra seats from Quebec, and then making it easier to win a Canadian election as the Liberals by then being able to run up the score in Toronto, in the general GTA, Maritimes, and then you don't even really need the rest of the country. It's just a cherry on top to win a couple seats in Manitoba, in Alberta, and then in BC. Really, it's just Vancouver for the Liberals, and then the territories. The Liberals, and that's where the whole stereotype for Western Canadians came, that there's no point in even voting because the election is done by the time it gets to the border of Manitoba. That the Liberals have gotten so many seats from the Maritimes, from the GTA, and from, frankly, just Montreal and Quebec City, that it's over by then. But now, Trudeau can't even get Quebec. The Quebec is not a guarantee for him anymore. I want to quickly pull up this, because it's pretty sad, that there is a by-election happening in the riding of LaSalle, Émard, Verdun currently, where it's a Liberal riding, a Liberal MP stepped down, and the by-election should usually be a 100% lock for the Liberals. And this is not a riding that I think the Conservatives can win. It's just not a very conservative place. But the Liberals do not have a 100% chance of winning this riding. They are currently in a tight three-way competition between themselves, the NDP, and the Bloc Québécois. This is the projected vote totals that they're expecting at the end of the day. Even then, I actually think this is underestimating the Conservatives, because the way that 338 works, just for a bit of context, is it's a combination of historical data and current polling trends. And this is a riding where the Conservatives probably in the last election got 5%. That's not even like an exaggeration. In Papineau, Justin Trudeau's riding, the Conservatives in 2021 only got 4.8%. It's just areas that the Conservatives do not focus on. So I think the Conservatives could punch higher than 13%. But regardless, this is a riding that shouldn't be competitive whatsoever. But Justin Trudeau and the Liberals, like in St. Paul, where they have to send in all of their ministers, all of their staffers. They are dumping in probably more than $100,000 into both that by-election in St. Paul that they lost, as well as this one. Because if Justin Trudeau loses this by-election, and be very clear, every by-election is a referendum on the Prime Minister. Not in terms of every by-election that's ever happened is a referendum on the Prime Minister, but these days, with Justin Trudeau's poor performance, no doubt everyone who is going to the polls, it's not about the local candidate. Who cares? I've seen some councillor or whatever running for the Liberals. These days, though, because of Justin Trudeau's performance, he's a very polarizing figure. So if someone's showing up to vote, it's either that they like Trudeau or they don't. And maybe they'll pick one of the parties because that lines up with them a bit. One might line up with them ideologically more than another. But for the most part, they're not showing up because their own local guy's good. They hate Trudeau, and they either want an NDP bloc or conservative person to replace them. And I want to get into some of the social media posts that have been coming out of the Liberal Party, because it's pretty desperate, the amount of stuff that they've been posting to try and turn this by-election into something like, I guess, like a bellwether, that if the Liberals win it, then look, we're rocketing towards the sun once again in terms of our popularity. They would not be posting this if it was a normal sleepy by-election in a Montreal suburb or in downtown Montreal. Liberals posting, working with Justin Trudeau and our Liberal team, Laura Palensity or whatever, is ready to deliver a better future for families in LaSalle, Émard, Verdun. I don't even know when the election day is. Maybe it's tomorrow. I haven't really paid that much attention. Trudeau is apparently spending a lot of time in Montreal, and he went to Montreal Pride with this horrifying photo resulting from it. Like, I don't know why you post this. He just kind of looks a little bit psychotic. Maybe I'll make this part of the thumbnail. But he's spending an outsized amount of time in a city where he should basically never have to show up. By the way, why are there pride parades and events after June? You think that every single city kind of gets it out of their system, but apparently every single city has like a different pride day afterwards. And then they posted this photo of this kind of old man saying, "Oh, I don't like Pierre Poilievre and I'm voting to get rid of him." as if this is, again, supposed to be a referendum on Pierre Poilievre. It's not. That's all I can really say. It's not a referendum election on Pierre Poilievre, but the Liberals need to feel like or pretend that if they win this by-election, which shouldn't be in contention at all, other than the fact that Trudeau sucks at his job, that no, if they win this safe Liberal seat, then that means people don't like Pierre Poilievre. In this riding where we just looked at the numbers, the Conservatives historically, I'll actually just quickly look at it. Historically, the Conservatives in 21 got 7.6% of the vote, 2019 7.2% of the vote. But if the Liberals, guys, see if the Liberals win it, that means people don't like Poilievre, even though it's a riding that hasn't liked Conservatives ever. But here's this short clip that they put on their social media page.
What are you thinking about heading into this by-election?
Getting rid of Pierre Poilievre.
Was the by-election in Carleton? Is it anywhere close to where Pierre Poilievre is an MP? No, the Liberals just don't have any narrative left over to use. They just have nothing. So they're having to just lean on the idea that basically Justin Trudeau waking up in the morning and being able to put on his pants without help from assistants means that Pierre Poilievre is his days are numbered. I see this all the time. It's sad. Every time Justin Trudeau does a speech where people clap for him semi-enthusiastically, well, it means he's on a comeback. Justin Trudeau is going to make a big comeback, and Pierre Poilievre is going to get tossed out by Canadians. The same Abacus research poll that came out, and I'll probably cover this more extensively in another video, but I'm just going to quickly bring it up here. Pierre Poilievre is actually becoming quite popular in Canada. It's very difficult to become popular as a Conservative. There's just so many media stories that get released about you. It's not because you did anything wrong. Every politician can have a bunch of media stories released on how they're a really bad, big, mean man or whatever, or woman, I guess. But the thing is that the media is so left-wing that they attack Conservatives disproportionately, makes them look bad, and because of all the parties that currently hold seats, the Conservative Party is the only one right of center. You have four other parties who attack you constantly: the Greens, NDP, Bloc, and the Liberals. So it's a massive uphill battle as a Conservative leader to actually become popular. And right now, Pierre Poilievre is at his most popular ever. 42% approval, with only 35% of people disapproving of him. Go down to Justin Trudeau. 58% of people disapprove of him, only 25% approve of him. Jagmeet Singh, 37% disapprove, 33% approve. You can see at the beginning of this chart, he actually had a positive rating, 39 to 27. The reason why NDP leaders historically usually have a positive approval rating is simply because people don't see them as a serious political figure. You just assume, Mulcair, Layton, whoever square people that usually have tended to be NDP leaders before Layton, probably a nice guy because he's never going to be prime minister. So why hate him? And that's the impression people had of Jagmeet Singh for a long time. Nobody wanted to vote for him. His polling numbers are horrible, even compared to Mulcair. And, but people were willing to say, he's a nice guy. His approval ratings, though, hit the floor as soon as he signed, and it took a little bit of time because there was a lag. But as soon as he signed the confidence and supply agreement with the Liberals, his approval ratings hit the floor because now he's actually complicit in what Justin Trudeau does. Jagmeet Singh's not just some whiny trade unionist from the back of Parliament saying that we should do price fixing and maybe communism's a good idea. No. Now he is actually in cahoots with Trudeau ruining your life. Anyways, that should be it for me today, guys. I'm going to come back and go over some more of these results from this Abacus data poll in the coming days. There's a lot of interesting stuff about immigration that is going to become a top issue in Canada. It's a driving factor in Quebec as to why the Conservatives are rising in popularity, because Pierre Poilievre, in a lot of French interviews, has been very hawkish against immigration and wants the rates to be much lower. That's a big deal for him and a lot of people, but it's going to be probably a bigger issue than what a lot of the things the liberal media is going to want to talk about. They're going to try and avoid it. They're going to try and say that everyone actually wants to talk about, grocery store cartels and environment, but no, it's affordability, it's immigration, it's social issues, and that's pretty much it. People don't care about these fringe luxury issues around, hate speech or whatever, and issues about issues around in the environment and all this sort of other stuff that liberals prefer to talk about. Generational fairness. It's abstract issues that nobody actually thinks about in a day, but the liberals would like you to think about in a day because that might make you vote for them if you think about these really esoteric things that have nothing to do with your actual quality of life. Okay. Well, anyways, that should be it for me today. Again, if you live in BC, donate $100 to the Abbotsford South EDA. All the other parties in British Columbia get $1.56 for every vote they got in the last election. The Conservatives weren't a big party in the last election. They only got 2% of the vote. So obviously they don't get a lot of money, where the NDP gets millions of dollars per year based on the money they got from votes. It's insane. It's not democratic at all. It is advantaging incumbents. So that's why if you live in BC, donate to that, and we're going to distribute it to other ridings that need our help after we get ourselves fully funded. If everyone who supports the Conservatives gives $100 and gets, which only costs you $25 because of 75% tax credit, it will, the Conservatives can easily win. The only advantage the NDP has is the money advantage. And then if you don't live in BC, you always think about donating to the legal fund. It's an ongoing legal battle that's cost me more than $32,000 so far. And so any money does help that. But I'll see you guys later in another video. And at some point, I should maybe include, I'm going to Japan on the 16th. But I'm going to try and record a bunch of pre-recorded evergreen content where it doesn't matter when it comes out. It's just a fun video so that it doesn't feel like I'm just gone for 2 weeks straight. But I'll also try and film content while I'm in Japan if anything breaking happens and I just want to do a quick 5-minute sort of reaction to what's going on. Anyways, that should be it for me. Finally, see you guys later.